Hello.
I'm kind of hurt. One of my Zillow people unsubscribed from their auto prospecting emails.
Oh, that's really sad.
I'm gonna have to flash on them.
Yep.
Yep.
Just add them back. They won't know what hit them.
Put them to a different system. They unsubscribe from one, add them to something else.
It's like, woohoo!
Oh, how is everyone doing this afternoon?
Great.
Well, I'm glad I sent a message to my client in Antioch. I was like, okay, I'm going to be there at 1:00. I'll meet you at this address because he messed up last time on the address. And he called me. He's like, shit, I'm still at work. So now I have to go tomorrow.
Oh, that's sad, but that's probably, well, no, it's not going to be better.
Yeah. So
I was going to say maybe that'd be better, but tomorrow's Friday. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It sucks.
Yeah, I got a Zillow call today, and she was like, "Yeah." She started the conversation off with, "Yeah, I have another agent. I was just calling to get some information on this."
You're like, call your agent. Stop clicking on listings on Zillow, please.
Yep, I more or less. I was like, "Whenever you have any information, I don't want to step on any toes. Here's the information you asked for. Let me know if you need me."
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
That's the first Zillow call I got all week.
So that one doesn't even count.
Right?
Oh, they're gonna count it against you though. That's the bad thing.
I hit it with the auto reject.
Oh, good. Oh, you can do that?
Well, not auto reject, but I just rejected it right away.
Oh, gotcha. You can reject it and then put has another agent.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I did.
So what today is just open Q&A. We had to rearrange a few of the classes because of the fact that I will be traveling in April. And I failed. We'll say I failed. Anyways, I failed. So my NHD will be coming on next Thursday to do a training all about the NHD report, the Natural Hazard Zone Disclosure Report. We'll have starts Britt, who is the rep over in the Santa Rosa, Sonoma County area, will be on because Taylor Fetters is still out on maternity leave. She gets like a full 3 months off or something like that to spend time with her new baby. So she set up for us to have Britt on Thursday to go over that NHD report, which will be fabulous. And also, in case you didn't know, my NHD has partnered with Realty One Group. So when you go to fill out your contracts now, if you put Disclosure Zone, I think is the name of it. Don't mark my words on that. We'll find out.
Source. Something
What?
Disclosure source?
No, it's not Disclosure Source. It has zone in it.
Hold on. It's on the one that you did for me. Or
it's probably Disclosure Zone. I don't know. Anastasia will look at it.
I think it was on a deals, right?
It was on the commercial property one, I think.
A deal, yeah.
Anyways, they have a partnership, so it's the same in my NHD report. Why we let Anastasia look that up. Same my NHD report. However, they've partnered with us, so if you utilize the my NHD through our one zone, then the office gets a little bit of that money from that NHD report. So it's a win-win. You get a fabulous NHD report who's going to go over what that means at our next Thursday, and the office gets a little money from that plug on the purchase contract. Did you find it yet, Anastasia?
I'm scrolling.
Pressure.
Disclosure source.
Disclosure source. Okay, so disclosure source. I felt like that wasn't it, but all right, disclosure source. We'll verify that next Thursday.
That's what we put in.
I know. That doesn't mean it's right. Anyways.
I think there was another one that we did.
Anyways, they'll be on next Thursday. The Thursday after that, we'll have Fidelity National Title Company is going to come on and talk about the preliminary title report. The cool thing about that is that if you were joined us last time when Malika and Pamela were on to go over from Old Republic Title Company. Now we have Fidelity. So you'll learn some different things, I promise, because everybody has a different spin on it. They're going to go over the preliminary title basics as well as pitfalls and red flags, things to look for. I just had a major pitfall. It wasn't a major one. It luckily didn't turn into a major one, but we had on a property that I'm selling right now, there was a prior transfer of the property to two different people that was uninsured. It wasn't done through a title company. That held up the entire process. We are now late on closing because we actually had to track down the other person that owned the property to get a signed affidavit stating that they did in fact transfer the property to make sure that there wasn't any fraud involved in that. So if you ever have those transfers that are uninsured by title companies, it will potentially hold up your closing if you don't handle it right from the beginning. The big thing there is that I'm using the wrong title company, but we won't even talk about that. And no, it's not Old Republic Title Company. It's one that the buyer specified. But so they'll be on to talk about that the next Thursday. And then I think we're back to regularly scheduled programming for a couple of weeks. And then at the end of April, the 24th, 25th, 26th, the 24th, hold on, let me verify.
And I
Look at
did
a
verify
calendar.
it is disclosure source.
Disclosure source. All right.
Yes.
All right. April 25th, which is a Tuesday, we will be doing something. We will be doing an Avid field trip in person, live and in person. We will be doing an Avid field trip in Vacaville.
What? You're gonna be
I know,
here?
right?
You're coming where?
Yeah, right?
Shut the front door.
So Avid field trip on the 25th. The 26th will be our lender forum where hopefully Tristan, we're waiting for him to confirm, we'll be back on talking about loan programs and lending and what you should know when it comes to that. You can razz him with all your questions. It'll be really fun on the 26th. And then the 27th, we will be doing the tech training where we talk about berries and property searches and such like that, setting all that stuff up and making sure you have that fleshed out on berries, Real Scout, and One Suite.
This
I
one?
believe, or what?
Sorry, didn't know I was unmuted.
Oh, that's right. So that's kind of the changes that happen. Abby will be getting out a new schedule because most of those changes happened in April. So she'll be getting out that new April schedule here shortly that we will post for everybody. But those were kind of the changes because I was trying to book a trip into
Okay.
the little area there.
So on Tuesday, April 25th, we're not doing Rev Up at 11.
We'll be
Correct.
doing an Avid field trip at 11.
Okay. So we have
Yep.
to meet at the office.
We will probably meet at the property.
Do we have that yet? Or
No, way too far in advance.
oh my gosh.
So stay tuned for that.
I missed
Say
it.
that
What
again?
date- What date was it on?
April 25th.
The 25th of April.
Okay. I wanted to make sure it wasn't the 25th of March.
The 25th of April.
Copy that.
Amy doesn't work
Okay.
on weekends.
Good.
Yeah, what's that? All
Just
right.
another
What?
said just another day.
Just another day. When you live in Idaho, they're all the same. They all just blend together.
I'm sure when you get stuck in the house with snow too, it makes it even worse.
Oh no, it's all like a fabulous vacation, even when it's snowing.
Oh man.
Keep in mind that we have no snow on the ground right now, that we are snowless. It's gorgeous. It's been in the 50s here. There hasn't been rainy storms, locking everything down, shutting our power off. It's been beautiful.
Lucky you.
We're supposed to get some rain tonight, though. Your storm has finally made it to us, I think.
Oh,
Just a
well,
little.
I was pooping bricks yesterday because I was driving and it was thunder and lightning, and I'm terrified of thunder and lightning. And it was happening while I was driving. I was terrified.
Well, hopefully you got your car cleaned up after that.
No. Not yet. Missy.
All right. So what questions do you all have? Otherwise, I'll just ramble on about random things having to do with real estate if you guys don't have any questions.
You're good. I'm good with you rambling.
Rambling sounds great to me.
Rambling sounds great to you. All right. So random questions that I've gotten this week. One of those is there was a agent that had some inspections done on a property. One of them was a quite expensive inspection. It was a geological survey of the property. So they were doing soil samples and stuff. Based on the findings of the inspections, the buyer decided they did not want to move forward with the purchase of the property, and so they canceled it. And then the listing agent asked for copies of those inspections. Please note that in the residential purchase agreement, it states that any inspections or reports that are done by any buyers on the property are required to get turned over to the buyer's agent. And that even survives the contract. So if the question was, hey, can we make the seller pay for half of it to release it to them? And no, you can't. Contractually, you're required to provide them a copy. Even if the contract's canceled or closed, you're still required to provide them copies. Those all become material facts about the property. And so they're required to have a copy of those. The other question that came up had to do with appraisal. There was a transaction that was done that was negotiated as a conventional purchase, and then they switched it to an FHA loan partway through the transaction. And the appraisal came back with some repairs that needed to be completed. And there was an argument over the fact that report was supposed to be turned over to the seller, even though the seller actually wasn't going to do the repairs. The buyer's agent was doing the repairs. And in fact, if it's an FHA or VA appraisal done on a property, that stays with the property, and you're required to hand over a copy of those appraisals. So a conventional appraisal does not need to get turned over to the listing agent and the seller, but the VA and FHA appraisals do need to get turned over to the listing party. So just a couple things to keep in mind. You can't keep that from them.
And so that's more or less because with those FHA or VA, they have those specific guidelines where stuff has to be up to par, whatever it may be.
It has more to do with the fact that those appraisals are going to stick with the property. So if I've got a VA or an FHA appraisal done and it came in low and I didn't want to negotiate with the buyer on the price and I wanted to cancel it, if I put it back in the contract with the same type of loan, let's say it was an FHA loan, and I put it back in the contract with a new FHA buyer, that FHA lender is going to pull a copy of that appraisal to use. You don't get a new appraisal.
Understood.
And VA is the same way, as well as with repairs as well. So anytime somebody asks for something that's subject to repairs, and that goes for if it's a conventional appraisal as well, if it's subject to repairs and you're asking the seller to complete those repairs, they're going to want a copy of that document showing the repairs that need to be completed.
Understood.
But don't get bullied into turning over a conventional appraisal if you don't have to.
Oh. What do you got for you okay, let me ask you this question. I just put in an offer last week on Saturday. We did get turned down. There was like 5 other offers. We came in at like number 3 or 4.
Okay.
What's the nice way to ask what the deal price was?
Oftentimes people will not disclose what the final sales price was. However, a nice way to ask is, well, number one, you can always ask, can I ask what I could have done to my offer to make it stronger so that we would have been in first place? So that's a good way to get feedback on your offer. You can always ask for feedback. Most of the time, agents are more than happy to provide feedback, even if it's not price related. And you can always just come out and ask and say, hey, do you mind me asking what the final contract price was that the winning offer had? That would be a nice way to do that. But, agents are silly people, and they often will be like, oh, I can't disclose that until we close. And then the reason being is that they, the final offer isn't always based on the purchase price. Sometimes it's terms or likability, right? It's a popularity contest, or maybe they just like the other agent better than they liked you. And so sometimes it's not always the highest offer that gets accepted, but you can always ask and just ask what the final purchase price was that the seller accepted to, and then also ask for feedback on what could have put your offer in a better position.
Got it. I like that. I like that one.
Yeah.
And my poor lady, she's gonna start to lose her mind here in a little bit.
Oh no.
It's hard, man.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's really
everything
hard.
right
It's
now
like,
that's 550 or lower is everyone's competing for the same thing, and they just keep going up and up and up.
did you show her the one that Brandy just posted?
The one that was 600, right?
Yeah, in Foxborough.
Yeah, they're not gonna want to go that high. Me and Tristan were working our tail, or really Tristan was working his tail off to try to get their rate down as much as he could. I mean, he even had to, he was like trying to buy the rate down himself if he had to.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he was trying as much as he could, but unfortunately he couldn't fill the gap enough.
Wow.
Good afternoon, Adriana. Any questions that you have before I just go back to my ramblings?
I'm thinking.
Okay. Oh, here's the other one I had this week. See, I get asked random questions all week long by people. And so the other question that I got asked, in fact, I had an agent from another office call me and ask me random questions this week, was that if you serve a notice to perform, this is so important. Okay, notice to perform. The contract states it's a 48-hour notice to perform or a 2-day notice to perform. And then if it's a demand to close escrow, those are two different things. There's a notice to perform, which is like your contingencies, returning seller disclosures, removing the contingency for the sale of property, all those things. Those are all part of the notice to perform. If it comes down to a close escrow, then it's a demand to close escrow, two different things. The demand to close escrow defaults at 3 days. The notice to perform defaults at 2 days. So unless you change that, that's what it is. You cannot serve one of those. Like if it's a notice to perform, you can serve it before the due date of the item. So if you've got an agent that you think is just going to drag their heels on everything, you can serve it before the due date, but you can't serve it more than 2 days prior to that due date, or for a demand to close escrow more than 3 days prior to the notice or to the close of escrow date, the scheduled close of escrow date. Why would you want to serve a notice to perform? Well, if you've got somebody that's not performing, that's one of the no-duh things, right? You've got contingencies that aren't being removed, things that aren't happening. I am quick to serve a notice to perform. Just so everybody knows, I am so quick to serve that because my goal is to protect my sellers. And if we let it drag on long past contingency due dates, then I can't cancel that contract until I serve that notice to perform. So if I let it drag on 3-4 days past the contingency due date, and then I'm serving that notice, I'm another 2 days out before I can cancel that contract. So I'm just dragging it out. So I am pretty quick. If you're not removing contingencies on one of my listings, you're probably going to get a notice to perform from me on the day that those contingencies are due or the day after. The other reason that you would want to serve a notice to perform is, let's say that you were accepting backup offers and you got a much better backup offer in hand than you have current accepted offer. Your seller cannot cancel on those buyers unless they are in default of the contract, at which point you would have to serve a notice to perform or demand to close escrow. They'd have to fail to perform before you could cancel it. So if your sellers are trying to get out of a contract for some reason, I would serve those notices 2 days before that due date, so that on that due date, if it's not removed, you could cancel the contract. So that's the mean way to play the game if we're trying to move forward with a better offer, or just your sellers have changed their mind, something changes and they want to cancel that contract. Just stay on top. There's lots of things listed on that notice to perform, things you wouldn't even think about, like return of the seller disclosures, handing over inspection reports, things like that, that fall under that notice to perform that you can serve it for. So there's lots of little nuances for that. When you serve that notice to perform, it's a 2-day notice to perform. So if I serve it today, no, let's back up because today's a bad example. If I serve that on Monday, Monday's day 0, they have Tuesday and Wednesday to perform. At the end of the day, Wednesday, that would be when you could cancel the contract. So it actually end up being Thursday morning. Okay, so if we serve it Monday, Monday doesn't count. They have 2 full days to perform, to do whatever you've asked them to do before you can cancel it. Okay, if we served it today, okay, today, which is Thursday, Friday would count as day 1. And if the day of performance falls on a weekend or a holiday, it rolls to the next business day. So day 2 would be Monday. Okay, Friday, day 1, Monday, day 2. We can't cancel until Tuesday. So it's really important to pay attention to timeframes and deadlines and think about the business days and days of the week and days of performance when serving those notice to perform. They have, because the actual performance day would have been Saturday, they get that day over on Monday. And if Monday was a holiday, it would roll to Tuesday to perform. We couldn't cancel until Wednesday. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It usually makes sense because it's days of the week or, days for all the performance, whether it's a close escrow date or a contingency removal date or any of those, it falls to the next business day. So if close of escrow fell on Saturday, it would roll to Monday, but on that notice to perform, we can't cancel until the day after the next business day. So it really kind of screws us up and sets us back a little bit. So just kind of pay attention to that. Anybody thought of any questions yet?
Nope, just enjoying your rambling.
Join my rambling.
Adriana, where's
Yes.
she at? Amy's gonna be doing a live walkthrough Avid on April 25th. So mark your calendar.
Oh, good.
I will be in town.
She's gonna be here.
Back to Wackaville.
Oh, nice.
We'll do it on Adriana's listing in February in Fairfield that she's gonna get.
Yeah, put it out there.
Oh
Put
no,
it
it's
in the
Vacaville.
universe.
Vacaville.
Heck yeah, what's the price?
It may fall within your buyer's range, but she doesn't have it signed yet, so she's not gonna tell you where it is or anything.
Yeah.
Fair. Absolutely. Good luck. If you see anything, I'll keep an eye out in the Facebook group chat.
Okay.
Let's see. I did have somebody call me this week that was asking about, they had a buyer who has, hold on, let me think about what it was. Oh, I remember. Okay. So they negotiated a contract, this buyer and the agent negotiated the contract with fees customary to the area, which for Solano County, the property was in Rio Vista, Solano County, buyer pays title and escrow, seller pays transfer tax. We don't have city transfer tax, so it's just county transfer tax. So they negotiated it based on those terms. They ran it by the buyers prior to submitting the offer. Buyers were good with it. They submitted the offer accepted. Now, the buyers are selling another property. The buyers are selling their property in Temecula. That's down in Riverside County. In Riverside County, it's typical for the seller to pay, I think, the escrow fees and buyer and seller to split the title fees and the seller to pay the transfer tax. So sellers got their property on the market. They accepted an offer, and then they got really irritated over the fact that they're paying the escrow fees for both properties, and they wanted the sellers to pay the escrow fees on the property they were already in contract on moving forward with. Okay. So, and then because the agent pushed back and said, well, we've already negotiated that, like we can't go back and try to renegotiate the contract once the contract's been accepted. The buyers got really upset and said, you're not looking out for our best interest. You're not doing what we want you to do. And so how do you balance that? And what does that look like? So what I suggested was that you ask for a closing cost credit in the amount of those escrow fees, maybe a little bit more, so you have some room to negotiate there, of $1,000 or whatever, to continue moving forward with it. The sellers might reject the request, but at least you've then asked for what your sellers are asking you to ask of the sellers, or what your buyers have asked you to ask of the sellers, to accommodate their needs. So there's ways to think outside of the box. Just because your buyers are asking for one thing doesn't mean that's the thing that you have to ask for. It might be something similar to help move that along. And you always want to set them up for success, right? So we always want to set our buyers up that, hey, this is something we've already negotiated. They were already like 15,000 below asking, or below, I think it was even below what the asking was. It was below the seller's bottom price, what they were told. So the sellers probably won't approve a credit, but they might, right? So we can always ask. So we set the buyers up with, hey, absolutely. If we go in asking for them to pay for the escrow fee, they're going to say no, because our customary, in this area, and I told them they could take like a screenshot of like Old Republic's website where you can go to the who pays, the ortconline.com. There's a little thing on the left-hand column that says who pays. You can plug in the purchase price, the city, the county where the property is located, the estimated close of escrow date, and it'll tell you what's customary for that area, what the typical thing is. And I said, you can even screenshot that for both areas so they can see the difference in customary, and let them know that if we turn around and ask for the escrow fee, chances are the seller's just flat out going to reject it because we already negotiated who's going to pay the title and escrow fees. However, now that we've had inspections done, we could ask for a small credit on an AEA or an amendment to the existing agreement. We could ask for a small credit towards your closing costs, which would equal out to what it would be if they paid that escrow fee. We're just putting it in different terms and different words to try to get a better chance that they're going to approve that request from you guys. Does that make sense? And they're going to say, yeah, and be like, chances are there's a good possibility that the seller's not going to agree to this because there's nothing really major in those inspection reports or anything that we're referencing to make that happen. So there's a solid potential they're not going to agree to it, but we're going to give it our best go. And in fact, the escrow fee is only going to be like $800. I'm actually going to ask for a credit of $1,500. So if there's some pushback, maybe we can negotiate and hit that middle ground and still get your number covered. Does that make sense? Right? So just think outside the box when trying to come up with solutions for things and try to figure out what's going to get us the best chance of success. Okay. I have seen deals where like buyers have removed all of the contingencies. They've already negotiated a repair request and we come in at the last minute and ask for more repairs and have the seller approve it after we're pretty certain that they're not going to approve it and be like, oh yeah, we'll give you some extra money for those things. Who knows why, but sometimes it happens. So we never want to just completely ignore what our buyers' requests are. And we always want to set them up for, here's the reasons why it may not happen. We're going to ask, we're going to push for it. I'm going to fight for you to make this happen. Okay. Does that make sense?
I have a question. Yes.
Yeah, go.
So because I just got off the phone, I got a lead from Zillow. And I'm gonna go show them this property in Sacramento, but they're only offering 2% commission. I'm of course gonna tell her I have to write I'm gonna bring up the buyer rep agreement. And I mean, I'm just meeting this person. Is it a good idea to have that conversation about like, well, they're offering 2%. My fee is normally 2.5. Or would it be smart to just do 2%?
So I would do 2.5% on the buyer broker agreement. You can always edit it. And I probably wouldn't necessarily draw attention to the fact that, hey, this property that I'm showing you, they're only offering 2%. You're signing 2.5%. I would just go at it with the buyer rep and broker compensation agreement of, if we go to write an offer on a property and this is ever the property that we're writing on is offering less than what we've talked about here, then at that point, we'll talk about a game plan of how we're going to move forward, right? Because then you have a decision. Are we going to ask the buyer to pay for it? If it's not a multiple offer situation, or even it is, you could still ask for maybe a closing cost credit to cover the difference, or you could check that little box on the purchase agreement that came out that says that you're allowed to negotiate the commission with the seller directly. However, if it were me and they were offering 2% and I was really wanting 2.5%, especially since it's Zillow and they're going to take half my money anyways, I would probably go into it at negotiating it as part of a closing cost credit and let the buyers know that, hey, I'm going to work. They're covering 2%. We've got an agreed upon 2.5%. I'm going to work to negotiate like a 1% or a 1.5% closing cost credit. Half will cover the difference in the commission. The rest will go to cover your actual closing costs. And they'll be like, oh, that sounds good.
Okay.
But I would just have them sign the buyer rep agreement at the 2.5. And then at the time they decide they want to write an offer, I would address it at that time.
Sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so everybody knows, I mean, those are your three options, right? Number one, everybody should be getting their buyer representation and broker compensation form signed, which introduces that form, the ABCD, which is the I don't even know what it stands for, but it's disclosing the compensation, the possible compensation. And it says in your buyer rep agreement that you're either going to provide it at time that you show or at time of offer. I would do it time of offer. And then, so you have to disclose that compensation. And there's 3 different things that you can do if the compensation is less than what is in your buyer rep agreement. You can do a modification of terms to reduce that commission down to match what's being offered from the listing agent. Generally speaking, general rule of thumb, I oftentimes will, if it's 2% or more, I just leave it alone. Okay, I don't worry about it. 0.5% is 0.5%, whatever. I don't care. So I'll just let it go. If it's below 2%, then I usually absolutely will negotiate it or ask the buyer to pay for the difference instead of changing the compensation agreement in the buyer representation. And the ways that you can do that is, as mentioned, it's got a new little box on the residential purchase agreement that says that you have the right to negotiate the compensation with the seller, and there's a form that gets included for that. So if they're offering 2%, you want 2.5%. Then you would check the little box on the purchase agreement and then fill out the form that negotiates an additional 0.5% with the seller directly. Or you can ask for it in the form of a closing cost credit, right? Then it just, the buyer's costs is what's in that buyer representation agreement. So you can present that to title. You get a closing cost credit. That closing cost credit goes towards all of their closing costs, which would include that difference in commission as well. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Only question
Thank you.
is the buyer's purchase agreement. That's from this CAR, right?
Yeah, the BRBC is a buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. That's going to be in your CAR forms library.
Got it.
And is the only thing that protects you from a buyer cheating on you. Okay, so make sure you use it, especially since you're now, working with those Zillow leads, make sure you use it with every single Zillow lead. Wow.
Well, I do have a question about that.
Yeah.
About the buyer rep agreement. So, but you can also, let's say that my buyer like signed it and then I find out that they went and like ended up using a different agent. We can only do something about it if it was a house that I showed them, right?
No, if you check the box that it's an exclusive representation agreement, it's about halfway down on the first page.
Yeah.
Then if they go into contract on any property in the area that you specify in that top section, you are due the commission for it. They owe you.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Bam.
Good to know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Any other questions?
Did you see the text I sent you?
I did see it, but I didn't actually look at it. Am I being watched by a cat? Oh, that's creepy. Creepy cat.
Now you pooped him out. Now he's sleeping.
I'm exhausting. All right, let's see. What other little tidbits of information can I give you?
So what's happening with the one we talked about this morning? Is that when does that notice to perform go into effect?
The notice to perform was served yesterday, so it would be today and tomorrow. I can cancel on Monday. However, I should get an answer from them today, whether they're going to move forward or not, at which point I then need to have a conversation with the sellers on how they want to proceed. Well, technically, because it would fall, okay, so let's see, I served it yesterday, so they have performance day. I think I could cancel on Saturday morning on that one. Because they had 2 full days to perform that fell during the week. So I think I could cancel on Saturday on that one. And I need to have a conversation with the sellers. I was hoping she was supposed to have an answer for me this morning on what their plans were so that the sellers and I can discuss it in either a full contingency removal or not. So which she's not going to give me a full contingency removal. However, the appraiser did contact me today to schedule the appraisal. So we're letting that happen tomorrow. So I'm hoping that's a good sign that maybe we'll just move forward, because I would much rather try to get it closed if she can. But if she continues to drag her feet and not give me answers and lie to me, the other thing is too, this is what I hate, just so everybody knows. This agent is also the lender. And I don't like when the agent is the lender because they are shady and they are not forthcoming with information. And that's what's been happening this whole time. So we're 2 weeks into this contract and we have no appraisal yet. And then yesterday she goes, well, I didn't order the appraisal because, and I go, what do you mean you didn't order the appraisal? On Friday, you told me that I should have been contacted already. So did you or didn't you order the appraisal? So she's been lying. So anyway, so I'm not sure what's happening yet with Heritage, but hopefully I'll have a better idea of whether it's officially back on the market or whether we're going to make a decision on whether we're moving forward with them or not.
That's so annoying.
Yes.
So, Amy, have you ever done commercial real estate?
I have done commercial with multi-unit properties, not with like commercial retail type buildings.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure everyone saw the email Ed sent out about all that changing too. I just didn't know. I have a barber who is interested in finding a new shop. So I'm started taking a look for him and sending him a couple things here or there, but I also want to make sure I'm not out of my realm. I know that it's not a normal loan, it's more of a business loan. I've already talked to a lender in that sense. Sorry for all the background noise.
Yeah, so it's been rescinded. So are they looking for a building to rent or one to purchase?
So the original one we were looking at was to purchase.
So that would be a conversation you would need to have with Ed when he returns. Oh, I just lost you guys. When he returns on Monday, because he's out of town for the next few days, to see if he's okay with you doing that. The other thing is too, is that most of the commercial properties are on LoopNet. They're not on the MLS. So when it comes to commercial properties, you'll find them on, it's called LoopNet, and that's where all the commercial listings are. And I would, if I were you and approaching it with Ed come Monday about representing him in that, I would find somebody that is proficient in commercial real estate and ask them if they'd be willing to mentor you through the transaction for a fee for a split of the commission so that you get the experience, they get compensated, and that you're protected. So when you go and talk with Ed about the potential of you continuing to represent them, that you have a plan in place to be able to do that.
Understood.
Yep. And I don't know his final take on it. We haven't had a conversation about that yet. We just want to make sure that everything's protected, and that's where that falls underneath.
Absolutely. And then my last question is, I know you're not in California, but have you heard of the new DREAM program that is getting run out this year? Has started?
Is that down payment assistance program?
Yes.
And down payment and 20%, and down 20% covers down payment and closing costs.
I have heard of it. I'm not familiar with it, but that's definitely something that you could reach out to. I'm sure Tristan, our in-house lender with Brickhouse Mortgage, is familiar with it. I know that Sonia McCullen, who used to be our in-house lender, is familiar with it. And they also, they're at, she's with Next Home now, but they have their own down payment assistance program as well, which I actually think maybe is a little better terms than this one. And I know there's qualifications for the Dream Home program or whatever it's called. Like I know that Shannon's had a couple of her buyers look into it and they don't qualify because the qualifications are kind of stringent on that. So just a few things, but I don't know a whole lot about it.
Understood.
So I know that it's so yeah, it's that 20%. However, when you sell your house, you have to pay it back, and on top of that, you have to pay 20% of the sales price of your house.
Oh wow.
It's probably 20% of the equity gain.
Or equity gain, yeah, that's what it is.
That's not
Yeah.
uncommon for those programs. I mean, it's free money. So, you know, if you get into a house now and you're able to do that because you have the down payment assistance program, and then over the next year, your house, or the next 5 years, your home gains $100,000. So what? So you pay $20,000 back to the program, plus you pay off the loan that they gave you. You still come out ahead on it, and it still got you into a home instead of renting. So it's still a good program, even if there is an equity share portion of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And who do you said has their own in-house financial assistance program?
Sonia McCullen at Next Home. She used to be the in-house lender she used to be with Homeowners Financial Group, and she was the in-house lender at Realty One Group, but I've used her for years. So she has I believe she has a down payment assistance program that's currently in effect.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. What other questions?
Nope.
All right, I will loop back to the notice to perform. So remember before I was talking about the notice to perform and how on the seller side of things, like I serve those notices to perform like they're candy. Like I don't hold back. I don't get offended. It's not personal. I let the other agent know, like when I deliver it, I let them know that, hey, this isn't personal. I'm just protecting my seller. I actually had an incident, which is why I do it. Back in the day, randomly enough at the property I met Noah and Rachel at years ago. And we were in contract on a property, not Noah and Rachel, but the listing that I had at the time. We were in contract with some buyers who continued to drag their feet. They couldn't get their act together. I let it drag out for like 3.5 weeks. Like we were almost at the closing date before I served the notice to perform because they had not yet removed their contingencies. And because they hadn't removed their contingencies, even though we were like up against the close of escrow, we didn't retain any of their deposit or anything. We had no rights to the deposit or to be able to go after them for anything. And so I learned very early on that, hey, you serve that notice to perform. It helps get people in the right path and helps make them make a decision early on instead of letting it drag out forever. So that's why I started doing it. And again, it's all in how you deliver it. Now, that being said, on a buyer side of a transaction, you better believe that I'm not removing those contingencies until that agent is hounding me for that contingency removal or they've served me a notice to perform. Again, it's not a personal thing for me. Like I don't get offended when somebody serves me a notice to perform. I just take it as part of the transaction. And oftentimes agents won't serve you a notice to perform. On my last transaction up in Placerville, we got to the close of escrow before I removed contingencies. They asked for them a couple of times. I just didn't remove them. I left them outstanding because I wanted to protect my buyers in that aspect and not remove those contingencies in case at the last minute something happened. We still had an out. I didn't want to lock them in. And so the way I operate from a listing transaction versus a buyer transaction, completely opposite, which is why it goes back to the fact of if you're representing both parties in the transaction, how do you do that and look after the interests of both parties? As a listing agent, I want them to remove all my contingencies, but as a buyer's agent, I don't want to remove any contingencies. So how do I operate in that gray area and protect both parties? You can't, right? And so that's why anytime I've got a listing and somebody wants to buy it, I always refer that buyer out so that they're being represented by somebody else, that somebody's looking out for their best interest and I can protect the best interest of my sellers.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. What other question? Yeah.
My my investment guy, he wants to do, hopefully this new one that I found for him, he wants to do the same thing, 7-day close, cash, no contingencies. So I'm just waiting on his reply. He was supposed to look at it. So I can just write it up like we did the other one, right?
Yeah, just write it up like we did the other one. And that again, because it's a fourplex. No, 4 or more. It's residential. You're good.
What?
So anything 4 or more units falls under residential, not commercial. Just so everybody knows. If it's 5 units, then but the one he's looking at is a fourplex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All
I'm
right,
gonna do a RPA, not the commercial, blah blah blah, with the broker one, right?
Yeah, and you may want to do, I don't know if they still have it or not. I'll have to look, or you can look to see if there's the investment property purchase agreement. It would fall underneath that.
What's it called?
I think it's called like search investment. Most of the RPAs have all been combined into one, but there's a couple different ones. Like there's a new home purchase agreement. There's a, I think there's the investment one is still existing.
When I type in investment, the only thing that comes in is buyer's investigation advisory, buyer's investigation elections, and notice regarding background investigations reports pursuant to California law.
Are you sure you typed investment and not investigate?
I did investment. When I type up investment, nothing comes up.
All right, hold on. I'm just gonna look so that we know for sure. But when the 4 units fall
that
under,
hurt. That hurts.
I was just asking because all the ones you were saying
Chaos.
came up were all investigation.
Chaos.
So I was just asking.
Chaos.
When the
Start
4
at a-
units falls underneath residential, so as long as you're up to 4 units, you're okay with residential. And just so everybody knows too, FHA loans. So, you know, if you've got people that are like, man, I'd like to get into investing and I don't even own a house yet, FHA will allow a buyer to purchase a multi-unit property up to 4 units as long as they're going to occupy one of those units. And they'll use the rent in the other units to help qualify somebody for that purchase. So as a first-time home buyer using an FHA loan with 3.5% down, you could buy an investment property as long as you intend to occupy one of the units.
Oh, that's good to
And you
know.
only have to, and you have to occupy it for at least a year before you move out, right?
Yeah, I believe that's what their rules are. All right, let's look here. So there's your random fact of the day. Also, you know, there's
Did you find the form?
I'm looking right now. It's just
Oh.
taking me a while to log into car forms, you know, because you got to click on 50 trillion things.
And you're out in the middle of nowhere.
And I'm on Zoom. Zoom slows everything down out here. Actually, it doesn't slow it all down. It just slows down my computer. Everything else works just fine. All right. Let's see.
I gotta jack up everything.
Residential.
Why don't you go find your daddy? Go find your daddy. Go. Go.
All right, it's the residential income. I should have known that. Income property purchase agreement. It is a RIPA. RIPA for your residential income property purchase agreement.
So that's the one I need to do for him.
Yep.
RIPA.
RIPA.
Residential. Okay.
Most of the other things, so there used to be residential purchase agreements for everything. There was like a mobile home residential purchase agreement and a bank owned residential purchase agreement and a short sale residential purchase agreement and your income property purchase agreement and your new home. And so there was something for everything. And now they've combined it. So you've got under your purchase agreements, there's like a new home purchase agreement. You've got a income property purchase agreement, and you've got a regular purchase agreement, and then there's just addendums for all of those other items. So if you come across a bank-owned property or a short sale or a trust or a mobile home, there's an addendum that goes along with that purchase agreement to clarify the terms of those items.
Copy that.
What other questions?
I'm good.
I was trying to think of something else I could ramble on about. I find it really entertaining that in this market, like on Heritage, I ended up with multiple offers on that property, but still everybody is asking for credits, right? So at some point, it's going to have to bust that people are either, it's like the weirdest market ever because it's kind of like a seller's market, but it's kind of a buyer's market, but it's kind of in between. So normally you get multiple offers, you don't have people asking for credits, but because everybody's asking for credits and it's an acceptable practice, so it's kind of a funky market. So just kind of be aware of that. It's a good idea if you're writing an offer on a property that has multiple offers, you know, you can ask questions. The listing agreement that we sign with our clients gives us full permission as listing agents to disclose anything about offers that we receive. And so, but most listing agents won't. So if you ask them, oh, what do you have in hand? They'll be like, oh, well, I can't tell you that. Well, yeah, technically you can, but they won't. So, some good questions there are the offers that you have in hand at asking, or are they above asking? And if they're like, oh, they're above asking, be like, great. Do you have any cash offers in hand or conventional offers? And then if they're like, no, no cash, no conventional, then you know they're all VA or FHA offers. And then you can ask, is anybody asking for credits, or is anybody asking for no credits, right? So you can ask clarifying questions about the offers. Agents seem to be more willing to answer like yes or no questions than they are like straight out questions about offers. You can always ask too, like, what would it take for our offer to be in first position at this point? Right. And then oftentimes maybe they'll disclose to you some information like, hey, we just want a quick, clean offer. We want, short contingencies. It's going to have to be a little bit above asking. If you're going to ask for a credit, take that into account. Right. So they'll tell you information about that if you're asking, like, what is it going to take for my buyers to get this? And then stay in constant communication with those listing agents as well. Right. So stay in communication. If we submitted an offer today, they're supposed to review tomorrow. I'm probably going to reach out tomorrow and be like, hey, just checking in. I know we submitted our offer yesterday. I don't like waiting until the last minute to submit offers, just so everybody knows. I like to try to give them a little bit of cushion on there, but I'm going to check in. Hey, how does our offer compare to the other offers you've received? Have you received any other offers, right? And then how does ours compare? Well, does ours fall, like, as far as terms and price, is ours looking pretty good, or do we need to make some changes? Well, you probably need to make some, okay, great. What changes do I need to make? Like, right, ask them like, hey, I want to help your sellers get what they're looking for in this. And I want to help my buyers get the property because they really want it. So what's that going to take to make that happen? Oftentimes agents, especially in the Solano County area, will share that information. Sometimes Bay Area, they're like a little bit more like, oh, I haven't looked at any of the offers yet. I don't look at them until I go to present them to my sellers. Right. And so they're like, I can't tell you anything. That's not helping anybody out. They should look at them and they should tell people what they are, because then we can drive the price up higher, right? Like, let's be fair. But so ask questions. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't hesitate to check in. You don't want to be annoying, so you don't want to check in like every 2 minutes, but check in like once a day, see where you're standing, if they've gotten anything else in hand, what you need to do. Like, be the one that communicates and is upfront, because that will put you in a relationship with the listing agent, which will help you get your offer accepted or help you be able to position your offer to get it accepted.
That's like when I was calling the listing agent for that commercial property, that fourplex yesterday. I'm like, so have you had any offers? And he's like, yeah. He goes, we actually got one. It was too low. And I said, okay. I said, so what's the magic number? And he told me. And I shared that with my client.
See?
And I was just like, sweet, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. And then he's like, well, escrow's pre-opened with Nicole Cisneros. And I said, well, my guy lives in Antioch. So he goes, yep, no problem. He goes, we just need a day to get it transferred. And I said, okay.
You know what, too? You could always open it. You could always write it with Nicole. And then there's a title office, Old Republic. They talk to each other. They're friendly with each other. So they could always go drop the deposit off in the Antioch office. They can sign papers in the Antioch office. I think there's an Antioch. There's one nearby there someplace. But they do communicate with each other. So whatever that nearest office is.
What's her title company? Which one does Nicole work for?
Nicole is Old Republic. I feel like there's one in Antioch. I feel like I've been to the Antioch branch. If not, it's nearby there.
Auburn, Yuba City, Lodi, Stockton, Vacaville. Yeah. Let me see.
All right. Anybody have any additional questions before we wrap up for today? It's 4:53.
What? Nope, it's in Oakland. It's on Antioch Street in Oakland.
Oh. See, I knew it had something to do with Antioch.
Amy, when you come out, I would love to buy you lunch. Where would you like to go? You have 2 weeks or you have a month to think about it. So let me know.
All right, let me think about it.
Oh, they have one in Concord.
Well, see, I told you. I knew there was one nearby. I was like, I swear there's other offices down there besides Oakland. I have been to the Oakland office as well. I've been to most of the Old Republic offices in the area. But
I'll call Nicole and find out if there's one close.
Yeah.
Bradley, were you saying my name?
Yeah, so I would love to hop in on that lunch. Maybe if we can, after the meeting, whoever's open to it, we can all get lunch together or something like that.
Lunch after our Avid appointment. I could probably work that in.
I'm down.
Okay.
Aw. And whoever's not on the call, they lose out. So
Whoever's
fly
watching
Abby
the
out, too.
video right now, you missed out.
All right, any other questions?
No,
Nope, just thank you.
just pray that we all
No,
get our offers
you.
accepted. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
agreeing the offers get accepted, that listing agreements get signed, that everything goes smoothly and fabulously, and that nobody has any major broker problems while I'm filling in for Ed over the weekend. And Abby has a little link in there to log your attendance as well in the chat box.
All right, hold on.
Adriana, did you have a question?
No, I'm glad. So I actually called in sick today because I hurt my back and I'm like limping all over the place. So I'm glad I was able to join today's meeting.
Oh, I'm glad you were too.
No. I
Yeah.
hope you feel better. Ice.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Ice.
Yeah,
Well, I
one of my best friends is a PT and she's gonna come over later and try to work on me. So
What's her name?
Edie?
Oh, okay. Because there's a girl at my physical therapy office named Charo. She's
Oh.
amazing. But my doctor said, Amy, my doctor said I could ride as long as
Nice.
somebody else saddles my horse for me. And I got home and I told my husband, he goes, I don't think so. But he used some extra words in there.
Well, I think they're riding at Jack London on Sunday. I'm sure
I
Chris would
know.
settle this for you.
I know, my husband would kill me.
Hey, Anastasia, my daughter loves horses.
Oh, she can go out and see mine anytime.
Maybe I can come set up
Masael
a
takes
time with you to
her
come
son out
see.
there all the time.
All right.
I'm actually
She
gonna go out there
pretends she's
tomorrow
a
morning.
horse.
I'm actually going to go out there tomorrow morning.
Okay. Well, I can't tomorrow morning, but maybe we'll set up a date.
Yeah, no worries, anytime. Chica loves
Thanks.
attention and carrots.
Nice.
Chica loves
So-
anything food related.
No, just carrots.
Coco eats
And
gummy bears.
peppermints. And peppermints. She loves her peppermints.
Oh yeah, Poco likes peppermints. Prim doesn't, but Poco will eat gummy bears. So
What? Stop it.
she'll eat anything you feed her. Prim looked at it and she's like, "I'm not eating that sucker." Poco's like, "Give it to me. I'll eat it." Alrighty, everybody have a fabulous day. Stay out of trouble. Go put some stuff in contract. Let me know if you need help.
Thank you.
Amy.
Thanks, Amy. Have a good
Yep,
day, guys.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.